Hello and welcome back to a new tier list. This one focused around the changes around leveling. A lot of this means that base stats are changed throughout the whole game, so a lot of these changes will be impacted in case of how you do while farming progressively throughout the game. This late game stats are changed for a lot of hunters, so we'll see some meaningful changes, so we'll get straight into it. To start us off, we'll keep on going alphabetical as we will be doing as usual, with a B but last, of course. We'll keep the pace here. Starting off with Bishop. Bishop doesn't really see too much change with the leveling system. Her kit is still good, her power is somewhat fine overall. She doesn't super excel at anything compared to other hunters before, but she's a fine hunter overall. I would probably take her down a little bit of a notch now because other hunters have risen up in power. So not that Bishop has become worse, but more so that other hunters are more stronger than Bishop in general. So we'll get back to that. Next one on to Brawl. Brawl has gotten big changes this patch. His LMB powers is gutted, but his RMB power is stronger. This means that you want to be playing more around being the execute finish, coming in and ending a fight. Brawl cannot straight up win fights unless you're playing against literal noobs who don't know what to do. Brawl is still good at punishing people that are worse than him, but now there is more skillful play around him, where if you are on an even level, there is a lot more counterplay to him. I do think, though, with the thing is that his stats are a lot higher in late game, so his burst potential is higher, but also because of the changes of the XP, there's more people alive in the late game. Even though his stats is high, his play style as being Brawl with more teams alive means that it's more chaotic, and people playing in multiple team fights is more troublesome for Brawl. He would like to catch people off guard, so if you can look for flanks, but if there's a lot more teams, then it's more dangerous overall. Now, of course, it is going to be depending on ELO a lot, but I always say, on the higher end, the better you are at the game and the more aware if you're the hunter, it's easier to play against him. I'll probably have him top of B. He's strong, power level wise. If you play around the RMB and you're good at him, he's in the same boat as Shiv, where you now need to be good at Brawl. You need to actually play his kit well. So if you're good in Brawl, he can maybe be better in these kind of circumstances. But he's not easy to just pick up now and kind of frustrate the enemy out of the wall. So I would put him here, but if you're good on Brawl, you can make more use of him. Celeste got some interesting changes to her leveling abilities. Now her power dynamic isn't really changed that much, but she gains more control aspect with her being able to place the wall down, and also with new kind of permanent ice under her feet or abyss if you use level 4 shift for that. I do think she is okay overall. I think she's not super strong power wise. I do like what they did with RMB, so it's more skill expression playing with range. As you deal more damage, the more the RMB travels. So I kind of like the aspect of it. I'm hesitant to put her up in A tier because of other hunters that will be there, and because of the value in being in late game. But I do think I'll put her she'll be bottom A for now because of how much area she can control, and being more teams in later stages of the game because everybody is more farming. I do think she provides a lot more utility and team play tools, which I think is great. Aluna also got some buffs. Her RMB, if you max it, it's huge now. Nice. Not too much else of it. She has some nice changes to her level 4 abilities. But Aluna is still Aluna, and struggles with actually getting people up in standoffs with multiple teams. So with, again, more farming, more teams in late game, Aluna will struggle more to actually save her teammates. I do think she's better. She's not C anymore. I do think her RMB playing more maybe hybrid build and playing for a setup tool is good. But I would just rather have so many other hunters than Aluna. Felix is a funny case. When I saw the patch notes, I saw that he was nerfed, and I already thought he was shit. But then I got to see him in some games, and his stats, because of the new changes with leveling and how much you can get per level, Felix was like surprisingly good stat-wise. Now the problem is that I got surprised, and now I'm aware, and now I can play against it, because his kit is still very predictable and easy to play against. He still has a kit problem, but if you do manage to get onto people, you can deal a lot more damage than before. So this is a very interesting factor. I haven't seen too much Felix, but I do think he has potential. I would probably say that he's like maybe up to Felix, like Bishop, because I do think his stats are surprising, but his kit is still struggling. So I'll probably have him around this spot for now, plus minus. Ghost hasn't really seen any changes. Some people have been talking about some like hidden nerfs on him. I haven't seen too much Ghost. I do think his power of poke and power of burst potential together with his team is still very good. He's a hard hunter to play around, but I do think his power level and how he does with the stats currently is really, really good. Then Hudson saw some changes. More range on RMB, less range on LMB. They just changed how it's set up, basically. I do think he struggles a lot still, but again, I think... What do I think? I would rather actually have a Hudson than an Aluna, so probably something like this. I think it's not really a hunter that I want to be picking up. He struggles in the early game, but again, everybody's kind of farming, so he has more potential to play around his barbed wires now that it lasts forever, so you need to actually play to destroy the barbed wires, and with the range on RMB, then it's easier to hold spots. So I would say he has better potential, and it's not like terrible, but it's like slightly better, you know. Jin got nerfed, but apparently he didn't get nerfed. So the things that we're trying to nerf, the people have already been able to play around him. The thing I will say about Jin is that he's really good at surviving, and he benefits from the stats in the late game, as I mentioned earlier. Hunters that are good at bursting you are a lot better because of the stat values that you're getting in the late game. This late game powers of bursting somebody is higher, but the problem is that there's a lot more teams. Like, I'm gonna have to say this more, I think he just really struggles in that kind of environment, but he can survive. He plays well in the early game, early to mid game, but I do think in general he struggles more in this kind of environment. I would probably, like, power level wise, just because of how much he can burst now, still have him bottom, like top B. So I think he's stronger than he was before power level wise, but I do think his kit still struggles in those environments. That's what I would say. Jewel, oh, she's liking the changes. I heard she was supposed to get some nerfs, but there was no Jewel nerfs, and with the stats she bursts even harder. Jewel, oh boy, she's really strong right now. What is funny though is that, like, she's still in S tier, but what is funny, I'll get back to it with Oath and Celeste getting more priority right now, that you'll see that she's struggling a little bit. So if you see more people playing Celeste than Oath, then she kind of goes down, but her power level wise and how much damage she can do, she's smiling right now. Jewel mains are smiling right now. Then over to Kingpin. Kingpin is also one of the people that are really benefiting from the late game power spikes with the stats. So he's bursting hard. He really struggles in the early game, so he's really weak there. But the problem is that, again, everybody's just farming. So like his weakest state of the game, he kind of gets through fairly easy, and then he spikes extremely hard later on. Kit, he's easy hooks with more teams, so I would say that he's up here in A tier, probably like top of A tier for now. But yeah, he's one of the, like, with Jewel and with KP, Braljin, those, they really do well with the late game burst stats that are with it. Myth also, she doesn't benefit by burst, but her DPS is still really good. So by people being like, either more tanky or people playing more around burst, so she can potentially die quicker. But playing around range, and if you're good on myth, I do think she's in a really good state right now. Also because some hunters are just more tanky, and with their consistent DPS, which is really good at like being consistently up there with damage, I think she benefits a lot from being kind of a tank killer as well. Of them, Ofa had a little bit lower before, but now, as I said, tanky people are more tanky, burst people are more bursty people, people in between are just in between. So by building double tank Oaf, you're really tanky. So this kind of goes back on his shield being weaker. You can punish his shield and you can play around that, but he's still now a lot more of a beefy boy, so you get that value back. I would probably have him up like this. Now his damage values are like okay, he can still deal a lot of damage, but he's a big chunky boy, so I would recommend going double helm on Oaf at the moment. Shiv benefits a lot from the burst potential in late game, but as other hunters like Brawl and Jhin, her kit is just hard to get value out of. She has low range, she needs to be in the danger zone to actually provide value. So if she's playing against any of like the top tier hunters that I'll say, I think she'll struggle a lot. I do think she's probably something like this. Again, if you're really good at Shiv, you can get high value out of it, but kit-wise, she kind of struggles a lot. Shrike. Void. So Void, actually, fun enough, with the changes, he can farm a lot more safely in the early game, and he is also a lot stronger with the stats. If you get to the later stage, and the control aspect, if you're really good at him, is a lot more beneficial. So earlier I would say like with the ranked, you just don't want to go him, he's slow, you can't get through it. But with the change of the pace of the game, he gets more area to play around. I would put him probably like this. I would say that Void can counter Brawl really hard playing around it. I do have him like around this area still because of him being able to get punished a lot more if you're not really good at him. So he's in the same boat as Shiv, where you need to be good at Void. But his power level is probably 8 here, but he's really hard to play to, so it's not easy to get value out of, basically. Seth, yo, he's kind of chilling. Like he is surprisingly a burst hunter. Like people think about Seth and like good healing, pretty good mobility. They nerfed his bee hopping to some degree. I don't think that hurt him too much, but with the stats value, his burst potential is surprisingly high. I've been testing out some Seth, and if you play well around his passive, he can do good damage in late game. So I would have him up here in the A tier as well with how he plays currently. And then funnily enough, Bibo, he got buffed. I got surprised by that. I thought that, and what I said earlier, and I talked with this about the devs, that Bibo is a really hard hunter to play. His mastery curve is high, and I think that's good because the better you are on him, the more value you get. But now they just straight up buffed him a lot. I do think he's in a little better spot. I put him in like the middle of the table last patch, but with the buff, I would probably have him like around 80 here with burst potential. His bomb can deal a lot of damage if you play around that well. So looking at the current meta, I do think burst hunters are benefiting a lot more. Now, I have talked about this a little bit with the devs, so maybe they will be doing some stat checkups in the next patch. So we might again see big changes in 2 weeks time because of how often they do patches. But if you want to be abusing the current stats in late game and playing around those burst potential, I would say this is pretty accurate and power level and what you can get value out of quickly. Then again, reminder that if you're really good on the hunter, you can still get a lot of value out of them. So don't be discouraged if you see your favorite hunter being far down. Play what you think is most fun and get really good at this. But this is the, easy checkup. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you will check out more videos. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.